something that is strange to me, that it was kind of a harsh realization this morning when I thought about it. But it is true, and it's kind of hard for me to admit. But the further I grow spiritually, and the further I get down this walk that I'm having, sometimes I imagine I'm like a little toddler, just learning how to walk. And I'm holding the hand of Jesus in this hand. And I'm holding this huge finger. And it's God the Father's finger in this hand. His head's up in the clouds. He's just so big. And all I can grip is this one huge sausage of a finger, like a baby would do. And I have Mother Mary in front of me going, come on, you're doing good, like you do when you are kind of helping a child learn how to walk, right? And, so the Holy Spirit's maybe a dove fluttering up above me. And I loved it because it's like, my heavenly family is trying to teach me how to walk in the ways of righteousness. But it's sad to say that the more I grow, maybe now I'm like a prepubescent, I'm a young teenager and I'm still learning. But I should be better at avoiding areas of near occasion of sin. And I don't feel I am. It's strange. And it's a testament, I think, to how closely Satan watches those that are growing spiritually. Because back before I started this, I would love to drive my Harley up to the Rock Store. It's a biker's bar in the Malibu Mountains. Or to Neptune's Net. It's right on the Ventura County line on PCA, Pacific Coast Highway. And these two areas are biker bars. And I could go there and maybe have no beers or have one beer, and that was it, fine. But the more I grow spiritually and the more I feel strength in my religious convictions and faith, that the harder it is for me to go to these same places and not have a beer. And if I do have a beer, it's like all these fleshly desires come up out of nowhere. And it's actually harder for me now, if I were to go to one of those places and want to have one beer, than it was 5 years ago before I started this walk. And it's like, how can I be so weak? And I think it has less to do with me and more to do with how determined Satan is to cut off this walk, throw up a roadblock, and to do everything he can to have those areas of near occasion of sin be able to really, really affect me more harshly. One time I had been, during last Lent, I gave up, I was completely sober, and I had been completely sober for about a month. And then St. Patrick's Day came up. And it's going back now maybe about 8 years or more, that almost every single Lent I give up alcohol for Lent. But then I'll usually allow myself to have 1 or 2 Guinnesses, usually just at home, on St. Patrick's Day. So during last Lent, I was doing really good fasting, and I was doing really good with complete sobriety. But somewhere around the 4-week point, St. Patrick's Day came up. And they have a lot of nice pubs down here in the old town. I love old towns, like old mining towns. And we kind of have an old town here that dates back to the 1800s. And a lot of those brick buildings are from that time period. So, a lot of these pubs, because I don't like to stick my foot into that world of sin, it's too tempting. It's a slippery slope. So I don't really like going into experience a lot of different pubs that I find interesting and inviting. I lived in England for 5.5 months as a 20-year-old. And I loved going in pubs, So I thought, let's go have one beer in one of these pubs I would have found attractive and would want to have a beer in that I haven't yet. And then even before St. Patrick's Day arrived, I thought, you know what though, why not kill two birds with one stone and go into this other pub as well? So I'll take my dog into this pub where I know I've seen dogs in there. I know they don't mind if you have a dog. I'll have 1 pint, of Guinness or a good, imported beer, hopefully from the UK. And then I'll walk to this other pub and have one there also. Anyways, it's a special occasion, right? St. Patrick's Day. Well, I ended up having 2 beers in the first place and 2 beers in the second place. And walking back to my car, I felt more inebriated than I planned to be initially that day. And then what do? Oh, it's only 4 blocks to home. I'll just drive carefully. So then in confession that month, I had to, confess to drinking like 4 beers in like 2 hours and driving under the influence, And I just hate how it's like the more I grow spiritually, the more I just can't even enjoy certain things because it's like the devil just comes for me. And at the same time, it's a nice realization to just realize that I just can't drink alcohol anymore, even though I'm okay normally with just buying 1 beer out at the grocery store and taking it home with me and having that 1 beer. But once again, the more I grow in this walk, I would start to realize that after that 1 beer, I'd want to strap on some shoes, get my dog's leash, and it's a nice walk down to the 76 station where they have a food mart, and I could get a second beer. And, then I might want to get an IPA that's kind of strong, Well, it's only going to be 1 beer, It's okay getting an IPA. And so, it's just something that is very frustrating. I would think that I could grow, that I've grown enough spiritually that those near occasion of sin would affect me less. But I hate to admit, it's the opposite. The more I become righteous, and the more I grow spiritually, the more powerful Satan is in bubbling up these fleshly desires anytime I come near my old areas of sin. It's like with 1 beer, it's almost like I open the door to Satan now, where it didn't used to be that way, and it's just kind of frustrating. I don't want to keep saying the same thing over and over, but, it just is what it is. I think it's also Jesus's way to get me totally righteous, because Jesus is in the background, keeps saying, how many times do you have to learn the same lesson? So many times I would think on a motorcycle ride, because when I get to my destination, you could swing that leg off the bike, you kind of want to have a celebratory beer, at least I do. I'm half German, half Irish. I grew up with a lot of beer around me. I started drinking beers at 8 years old, kind of swigging them, so it goes way back. And sure enough, I'll have that 1 beer, and then on the way home, it's like, well, I feel a little bit of the effects of that 1 beer. Why not get a 24-ounce or Coors Light right before I get home at that 76 station, put it in my tank bag, And then when I get home, because when you get off a motorcycle, your nerves, you're a little bit kind of hyper alert the whole time. So you kind of need to calm down somehow. So I'll have that 24 ouncer, and it'll help my nerves kind of come back down to where they should be. And I always kind of sleep at night. So, and then it might induce a nap, and I'll be able to catch up on a little bit of sleep. And, slippery slope. And then, the dog, I was gone for 4 hours on the motorcycle ride. It's going to take me an hour at least to drink this 24 ouncer of Coors Light. So maybe just strap on the shoes, walk the dog down to that 76 station again and get one more beer. So it's just like the good Lord's always there in the background going, come on now, you're smarter than this. You've learned the same lesson too many times, and you keep acting like you haven't learned this lesson. Don't step on that slippery slope. Don't test the waters with your big toe in that world of sin. So the good Lord is long-suffering. He's merciful. He's patient. But at the same time, you don't want to keep testing him by testing the waters of this sinful world we live in. So there you have it. That's my 2 cents on that. Hit like, dislike, leave a comment, share this video, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.